Tomodachi Life Living the Dream isn't perfect. Since Living the Dream came out, the discourse on it has been absolutely toxic. In other words, the sky is blue. But unlike a lot of games where people either think it's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever with no in between, I feel like the majority of people who've played it actually do like it. There are Nintendo haters and people who flat out despise the game, yes, but overall it's been received pretty positively. The toxicity I want to talk about today might sound like an oxymoron, but it really isn't, and that's toxic positivity. Toxic is usually associated with negative things, so how does it make sense to be toxically positive? Well, it happens more than you think, and it's far from exclusive to gaming. I can guarantee you've seen this before. Someone doesn't think Taylor Swift is the best artist of all time, they're just wrong. You just don't understand how good her music is. Don't like Rick and Morty? I guess you don't have a high enough IQ. People get so attached to an artist, actor, show, movie, or in this case a video game, that when they love it enough, they will defend it no matter what the criticism actually is. With Living the Dream, if you go to certain spaces online, you'll find endless praise for the game, and that's all fine. Like, if you do love something, it's good to share what you like about it. The problem is when you use your own positive experience to try and shut down anyone who disagrees. And I know what you're thinking, it's probably just them dealing with trolls and Nintendo haters, but what I'm actually seeing is people doing this to players who aren't being dramatic, aren't being emotional, and aren't trying to stir anything up. They just played the game, and they just formed a reasoned opinion on it and want to talk about it. If you don't think there's enough content, or you get bored, you're apparently a LARPer, a tourist, a grifter, you aren't playing it right, or you're not the intended audience. By the way, LARPer and tourist are some of the cringiest words I have heard when someone uses it unironically. I've really started to see this pop up even before I was making videos on Tomodachi Life, but I'd say since I have been covering it, I've been seeing a lot more of this toxic positivity. I posted a video recently saying how I thought the game was starting to get repetitive and that I wasn't playing it as much. I think it's a pretty standard take, I don't think I said anything crazy. And there are people in the comments who showed up to defend the game, which is fine, like I'm not saying you have to agree with me. But I feel like the issue is when people just go comment to comment, try and find anyone who disagrees with them and has anything negative to say about them. And it gets to a point where they're writing 20, 25, 30 comments on the same video across different threads just defending the game just over and over to strangers who weren't even talking to them. It's not even like all the people seem unhinged, but just kind of have this very dismissive and pretentious attitude towards those who don't agree with them. And of course, I have to say this is not everyone defending Living the Dream, because there are plenty of criticisms I disagree with too, but there are things that I may not agree with that aren't invalid just because I personally don't see them as an issue. I know people probably do a lot of name calling, whether it's towards me or other commenters, but all I'll say is that if you want to be taken more seriously and have other people try to see your perspective on what you love about this game, name calling or getting aggressive towards someone is only going to do the exact opposite. And usually when someone's doing something like that, it's just out of obsession, whether they admit it or not. It's not like going to a video saying you disagree, maybe responding to a couple comments, but go to different Reddit threads, different YouTube videos, not even by me, and you'll see the same thing in the comments there. You could love a game, it could be your favorite game of all time, but if someone's saying, I got bored of this game after 2 weeks, and that sends you into a 40 reply spiral, then chances are the problem isn't their opinion on the game. And what's interesting is a lot of responses from these people aren't really engaging with the actual criticism. A lot of them are just variations of the same few arguments, whether you're not playing it right, it's a life sim, that's the point, the original had the same issues, just rotating through the same handful of deflections on repeat, which is kind of ironic when a lot of the criticism is about the game being repetitive. And let's go through some of these deflections because it really shows the toxic positivity. The biggest one I've been seeing all across the internet is "you're playing it wrong," which might be my favorite because I didn't realize Tomodachi Life came with a rulebook and a code of conduct. Like, apparently there's a very specific developer-approved morally correct way to play this game, and if you deviate even slightly, that's on you. You can't play it too much because then you'll get bored of it and that's your fault. You can't play too little because then you don't understand it. You can't want more content because it's not that kind of game. So the correct way to play is somewhere in the middle, but not too much in the middle, and also only in a way that results in you enjoying it. I saw someone say that this wasn't enough content for a $60 game and got told they were playing it too fast and weren't the target audience. For saying a game that just felt light on content, that just feels a little extreme to me. I've seen people genuinely argue that if you are bored, it's because you approach the game wrong. And it's just such an insane concept to me if you actually think about it more. Imagine buying a $60 game, putting real time into it, forming your own opinion, and then some stranger tells you your experience is invalid because he didn't experience it correctly. It's like going to a restaurant, not liking your meal, and the chef comes out to tell you chewed incorrectly. Oh, my bad, next time I'll activate my taste buds properly. Then there's the classic, it's meant to be played in short bursts defense, which at this point is doing more heavy lifting than the entire customization system. And listen, yes, Tomodachi Life has always been a check-in game. Nobody's saying you're supposed to sit there grinding for 10 hours straight like it's a JRPG, but that doesn't make every criticism disappear. If someone is logging for a half hour a day, playing the way it's apparently intended, and they're still seeing the same interactions and the same events on repeat, then you can't just slap "it's a life sim" on every complaint like it's just some sort of shield. It's like someone saying a movie was boring and you respond with, well, it's meant to be watched sitting down. Okay, that doesn't change anything. Another one that keeps showing up is the original was repetitive too, which isn't entirely untrue. The original had a lot of repetition, and I mean most life sims are, but people aren't saying the original was flawless. They're saying they expected this new one over a decade later to build on it and feel like it had more depth. There's a difference between knowing repetition exists in the genre and feeling like a newer, more expansive version didn't move past it. But instead of engaging with that, the response is just, well, the old one did it too, as if that cancels the criticism out. And I will get to the 3DS version more later in the video. We've also got the you just have unrealistic expectations crowd, which really boggles my mind because apparently wanting more variety in a full price game is now considered dreaming too big. You want more depth in relationships? Nah, you want too much. You want more events? Nope. You want more drama? Think of the poor developers making this game and how much you're asking of them. And a lot of the features people are asking for are things that were literally in the 3DS version 12 years ago on a far inferior system in terms of power. So how exactly are a lot of these asking for too much? And for sharing, I've said that I understand why sharing isn't in the game because there's no censorship, but there are other things like the concert hall, like the rankings board. But apparently asking for these to be in the game is just asking for too much, and you're not allowed to be disappointed that it's not there. And we also can't forget blaming attention spans, because this one always shows up. If you're bored, it's not that the game might be repetitive, it's that your brain has been fried by TikTok and you can no longer appreciate a slow experience. Like literally, if someone just says this game feels repetitive and no one even mentions TikTok or anything like that, someone will bring it up and just say, well, you enjoyed the 3DS version better because there was no TikTok back then, your attention span doesn't exist anymore. And is that true in some cases? I don't know, maybe it is, but just saying that out of nowhere kind of seems like a stretch. But anyway, here's where I think it becomes an actual problem rather than just being annoying. When enough people respond to criticism this way, it creates an environment where there's only two acceptable positions. You either love the game unconditionally or you're wrong. You're playing it wrong, thinking about it wrong, expecting the wrong things, remembering the old game wrong, existing wrong. There's no room for a normal opinion. You can't say, I like it, but I wish there was more content, without someone jumping in to explain why you're wrong or you're whining or you want too much. And the irony is that this kind of toxic positivity actually ends up generating more negativity, because when people feel like their completely reasonable takes are being dismissed or twisted, they don't just go, oh, okay, my bad. They're going to fight back against it. So instead of a normal conversation where you talk about what works and what doesn't, and you try to understand why someone might feel the way they do, you get two extremes yelling at each other, with one side saying the game is flawless and one side saying it's garbage. When in reality, most people are somewhere in the middle, just trying to talk about a game where Mies argue, or don't really argue anymore. I've even had my own words twisted to make it seem like I hate this game, and I literally say every single video I talk about it that I still really like this game. Whether it's because people didn't watch the full video, aren't understanding what I'm saying, or are intentionally trying to create a straw man, it doesn't change the fact that people are looking to defend this game. The moment you say anything that doesn't align with what they think, they're going to hop in to explain why you're wrong and why they're right. Like, I've seen people just say they prefer the 3DS version and then get interrogated over it. It's not even that they said that Living the Dream is bad, it's just that they said they personally preferred the 3DS version and get hounded to give answers to why, and if their answers aren't good enough, then they get hounded even more. And I don't understand why so many people care what another random internet user thinks on a video game to a point that they're just going to attack them and just berate them in the comments. And my advice to these people is to just try to ignore them, because when someone is acting this way, there's just no way they're ever going to have a reasonable debate or a reasonable conversation, because they're not willing to say anything more than a very, very, very minor negative thing on this game, and they just want to argue, so you're not going to accomplish anything. And when I read a lot of these comments, I feel bad, because a lot of these people are probably kids or just probably random people who really do like this game but have issues with it, and then feel bad when they just get attacked from others. And all I can say is just don't let it get to you, but I know that can be easier said than done. If you play the game, your opinions on it are valid, whether people agree or disagree, as long as what you're saying is truthful to yourself and you're not making anything up. But anyway, going back to the nostalgia argument, that doesn't help either. If you say you prefer the 3DS version, you get immediately labeled as nostalgia blind, as if your brain has been completely taken over by childhood memories and you're no longer capable of coherent thought. And sure, nostalgia is real and it shapes how we remember games, but using it as your automatic response every single time someone prefers the older version just sounds lazy. Sometimes people prefer it because of specific features, specific experiences that just hit differently, the traveler system, the events, the concert hall, whatever it may be. Calling that just nostalgia blindness is just an easy way to avoid an actual meaningful conversation, and then someone can come at you and say, well, you're just saying these things because of recency bias. And for the record, I haven't even decided which game I actually think is better. Living the Dream has only been out a short time, and while it is starting to get repetitive for me, I still think it is a great game with a lot of customization, but there are things I like better about the 3DS version. But that's a game I played for a long time ago, and I do want to give Living the Dream more of a chance. I also want to say I'm far from the first person that's noticed this toxic positivity. Go to the Tomodachi Life Reddit, or don't. I try not to go on Reddit much. But if you want to see what I'm talking about, search toxic positivity in quotes, and you'll see how many others have been getting annoyed by this, and how many of them still really love the game too. They're just tired of valid criticisms being written off. And I think the worst part of this is that in trying to make this game seem so perfect, it's like they just don't want the game to be improved at all. Most people want more variety with interactions, more dialogue options, outcomes, drama, events, and even if this gets brought up enough, there's a better chance it gets improved on. I saw a reply somewhere that pretty much sums up how I feel about this, and it said something like, I'm okay with this feature not being here so you don't have to as well, and I didn't use this feature in the last game so it doesn't matter that it's gone. And I've seen comments just like this from people who didn't care about the concert hall. It's not an issue for you and that's fine, but why do others need to agree with you? This topic has just gotten way more personal than it needs to be in the name of being too positive. One last comment I want to bring up that I saw in another video, and you'll see why, and I'm going to paraphrase some of it. You guys are being so ungrateful. You say the game is bad, but didn't even spend 5 minutes actually playing or exploring the new tools. If you find it boring or lacking depth, it's because you lack creativity. Now, we have total freedom, and you will complain about the weather or baby cutscenes. Why even ask for a new game if you're going to cause drama and cry about nostalgia? If you can't appreciate the creative freedom we have now, go back to the 3DS and stop ruining the hype for people who have an imagination. Now, if this is a troll, I want to say excellent job, but I've seen way too many serious takes like this to believe that this is a troll. This entire mindset is just blaming people who didn't like it or prefer the 3DS version, or people who may even prefer Living the Dream but have some gripes with it, for not being creative enough and creating strawmans by saying, you only played for 5 minutes, and then writes off the baby cutscene complaint, which is a totally valid criticism and something that most people I've seen are pretty unhappy about. It's like we have to only be happy we got a new game and aren't allowed to have some gripes as well, and this comment to me is just the peak of toxic positivity. And if someone asked me to explain it in one comment, this is what I would use. And you could ignore most of these comments, but the reason I'm covering it in videos is because I think it's an interesting topic that I don't see a lot of people actually making any sort of videos about, and I thought it would just be interesting to talk about. At the end of the day, you are allowed to like the game. I really like it even if I have my problems with it, and you're allowed to think it has issues as well. Both of those things can exist at the same time. You can enjoy the customization and still feel like the interactions are lacking. You can have fun with it and still get bored after a couple weeks, and that's a completely normal response to it. But the second we act like any criticism is an attack that needs to be immediately shut down by one person going on a 40-comment defensive rampage, we lose the ability to talk about the game in any meaningful way. And that's way more damaging than someone saying, yeah, this got repetitive for me. Because one of those is just an opinion, and the other is turning the entire comment section into just a weird gatekeeping competition about who's allowed to enjoy something correctly. I know I'm far from alone in thinking this, and I know there's people who came into this video just ready to argue who probably didn't even watch much or only hate watch. I'm not trying to hate on people specifically, I just want to call out this behavior that I think is just bad for the game itself and bad for the community around it. Because people are allowed to have issues with it, and as long as they're saying it in a reasonable way, there's no need to act hostile towards them. I think this is just a game that a lot of people really love. They really love the creativity of it. They really love the customization in it. And they're ignoring that not everyone has those same views on the game. They just want to prop it up to make it seem like the best game ever made or a nearly flawless game. And if you feel it's a nearly flawless game, then it's a nearly flawless game to you. But the toxic positivity here is just not good for anyone. And I know I probably changed no minds in this video because you probably either watch this agreeing with me 100% or disagreeing with me 100%. I'm sure some of my words here will get twisted. I'm sure people in the comments here will have their words twisted. And all I could say is that it is a video game. It ultimately does not matter what someone else thinks, so just keep that in mind. And I also want to say that not all the people who have this toxic positivity are rampaging or anything like that, even though some of them seem to be. Some of them are acting calm, but it doesn't change the fact that they are still being toxically positive by just shutting down other arguments of anyone's valid criticisms and refusing to be even a little critical on this game. This video isn't even to talk about the games themselves, really. It's more about just the community around it and how people are acting. And I will say a lot of this goes for the other side as well, of the toxic negativity, because there are people who will just hate on this game just because it's a Nintendo product and just try and make it seem worse than it is. And that is bad too, and we can call that out. But I feel like that gets called out more. So I just want to talk about this. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe.